Hey everybody, it's Stephen Fortner for Keyboard Magazine at Musikmesse 2016, and we are here with perhaps the best keyboard demonstrator in the world, Bert Smorenburg. I had just reviewed the Montage in the May issue, and Bert, though, is going to give us the hands-on video because he can show you what's cool about this synth, just like about nobody else. Bert, take it away.
Thank you very much. So, exclusively, sorry about my English, I'm from Holland, so you have to, bear with that. My name is Bert, I'm a synthesizer demonstrator, and I'm really happy about Montage, actually for two reasons. I always divide Montage into two layers. The first one is lots of great sounds, lots of them. You can quickly layer them, you can quickly split them. So for the live player, this is really great because you can actually set up things really quickly, save it in a live set, and you can almost do this in real time and play your live sounds. Under the hood, there is a massive AWM synth engine and an FM synth engine. So these synth engines, you can dig really deep. So if you're a synthesizer freak, you're gonna love this. You have to take at least 6 months off work in order to get your head around this beautiful instrument. So another thing I really like about this instrument is the fact that you can control up until 8 parameters at the same time. And we do that with one knob, and it's called the super knob. Well, I'm not particularly attracted to the super knob. I'm more attracted to the fact that you can, basically control 8 parameters at the same time, because that is for a live player or a producer a really cool thing. But if you play with 2 hands, you cannot use the super knob, and that's why you can also assign it to an FC7 foot controller like this.
So those LED colors moving.
Exactly.
In my review, I found it's actually more than 8, because the super knob controls these.
Yes, that's
It controls these knobs when they're in assignable mode.
Yes.
Assignable buttons lit,
And you can assign any parameter you like.
But you can assign multiple parameters to these knobs.
That's the whole point.
So it controls these 8.
Yeah.
Which can in turn each be controlling multiple parameters.
Exactly.
So it's, I don't know what the maximum number is, but it's something crazy.
And also the values per parameter you can set. From which value do you start, where do you end, all that kind of stuff.
You can make it go backwards, so you raise one thing while lowering the other. Yeah.
So I'm going to give you another example of this super knob thing, like this. Like this, or if you're in a piano, you can play acoustic piano, and then if you go into the super knob mode, it morphs into a DX piano. So there's so many different ways to use the super knob. I'm going to give you another example. If I go into category search and I select in woodwind, I select a nice soprano soft saxophone, then suddenly the super knob is meant for delay. So you can assign absolutely anything you want to it. Another thing I really like are the string sounds. When I play the strings like this. You see, so only with your...
What is it doing in the case of the strings?
It moves completely from one sound set to the other one, from a big string section to a very small one. So this is the big one, this is the small one, and you can just morph between them. Another example of that, a classical organ. I start very small.
Oh yeah, I tried this performance.
This is really nice, and then I move it bigger and bigger. Another thing I like is the motion control sequencer. You can actually like put tiny little pieces of editing, like waveforms, for example, in a roll like this. And of course, you can edit all this kind of stuff in real time.
You can do wave sequencing using the motion sequencing engine. That's very reminiscent of a wave station or a PPG.
Yes, and I still own one. I still have a wave station, and I love it for this reason, exactly. So you can do all that stuff. You can change all the different waves. I love the arpeggiators. If you go into FM synthesis, this is the crazy stuff you can do. See what I mean? So it can go from bread and butter to absolutely crazy. Another thing I really like about this instrument is the fact that you can download samples. You can bring samples in. There's a 1.5 gigabyte flashboard on board. And what I can do is I can just put waves in there and use them in a practical way. And then I can combine it with real sound. Another thing I love about this instrument, especially for the live players, the demanding live players, the fact that when you switch presets, you don't hear that anymore. And that has something, I think the competition has been doing that for 15 years, and finally Yamaha got their head around that. You can change sounds now, and you won't hear it. So no heavy clicking.
Very smooth. I mean, my Kurzweils have done it for many years.
I know.
But you'll hear a little bump in the sound when you change the sound. You'll hear a little bump in the effects. And here you hear no bump at all. It's super smooth.
Because they have a complete double DSP processing going on. Another thing I like, sidechain. The thing is this, a lot of dance producers use sidechain, and that means they have the whole track basically compressed by the rhythm of the kick drum. Avicii had a fantastic song and everything was constantly bouncing like that. And we have exactly the same thing. So I have a pad sound here. And what I do with the pad sound is I have a compression on the pad sound based on the kick drum, and then it sounds like this. See what I mean? Different scenes, so you can change to different patterns.
You can get very Ableton-like is something that I discovered. You can get really Ableton-like in how you approach. I don't know that the main customer for this keyboard is an EDM producer.
Yeah,
but probably not. But you can sound so credible, and you can use the scenes and the sequencing to do very Ableton-like things.
Exactly, and everything I do is real time. You know what I mean? So the scenes you can program, you can have different parts. So if you are playing one song and you want to change sounds really quickly within the song, you can program them here within the part control area. You just switch part control on and you can, select the songs really, really quickly. I mean, it's for the demanding live player as well as for the producer in the studio. To me, it's absolutely ideal. I mean, if I go back into my live set, if you listen to this, everybody loves the typical Jean-Michel Jarre kind of arpeggiators. That kind of stuff. So whatever you want to do, and of course, as a player, you always want to go back to the piano, and I love the piano. That's why I love Montage so much.
Yeah, the sound quality too is, I think, something we can't overemphasize.
Serious change. I think they have done something with the DA converters. I think you can find that back in the brochure. Honestly, I have no idea what it is, but it honestly sounds better. Compatibility with Motiv XF is completely there, so it will recognize your typical Motiv XF extension files. You load that in, and he will create the same sound sets for you. I would never recommend to do that, because if you want to get to know this instrument, I would always recommend you to reprogram all your sounds, because you're going to be very inspired by all the new sounds, but also you will get to know the instrument much better. But if you want, it's all 100% compatible. Another thing I like, you have to stop me because I'm going to be talking for hours and hours about this instrument.
We got time.
The fact that you can connect to your laptop, and not only will it transmit MIDI, but also audio, up until 16 USB audio tracks stereo, and that is really cool. That hasn't happened before yet in Yamaha workstations. So that works really well.
So separate tracks.
Exactly.
Piped into your DAW.
Simultaneously, exactly, and that is really cool. I've tried that. That works flawlessly. That's fantastic. But that also means that, for example, if you're a live player and you use VSTs on stage, you don't need a separate audio interface anymore. Because what you do, you bring your laptop, you hook it up directly using a USB cable to your instrument. You play the instruments using MIDI, of course, using the keyboard, but you will hear your VSTs using the audio interface that's built in here. So it will just come out of your outputs or your assignable outputs, whatever you want.
Yeah.
So that's all, so practical.
I wanted to talk about a few more of the orchestral sounds, which really grabbed me. I think these, and I've played certain other brands known for their good orchestral sounds.
Yeah.
But I think these have surpassed anything in the hardware synth realm for strings and brass and woodwinds. I mean, they are just
Well, I'm going to show
You've got to go to like a multi-gigabyte software library to get better, and then you have to program the shit out of it.
Exactly, that is so true. The thing, what happens here is if I just select the trumpet, you have a typical classical trumpet, and you can add some reverb to it. But also what I really like is typical shake stuff, or the beautiful mellow stuff. You know what I mean? And also, I mean, if you go into
it sounds real.
It's
brass on a keyboard is just usually, like for the most part, I would rather play an analog synth brass sound
I understand.
than wheezy, cheesy,
Yeah.
bad brass. And this sounds credible. Like I could hit an Earth, Wind and Fire cover with this and not.
If you can play the notes,
Yeah.
it would be great. Yeah. That's another story. It's like, you know, I mean, they have spent so much time on the sound quality. Also, if you think about the E pianos. Also the FM pianos, if you select, for example, this one. Or the clavinet sound. I mean, the effects are so amazing. If I go into the amp gallery. So they spend so much time and passion on every category. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is the Yamaha Montage. Why don't you play us out with a little something of your own?
Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go back into, for example, I mean, there's so many things. I already played a little bit with this particular preset. I think I'm going to do that again. Also, of course, there's a vocoder, just to tell you that it is. I'm just going to play this beautiful arpeggiator again with this lead sound.
Beautiful, Bert. Thank you so much for taking the time to give us a personal demo. We know it's very busy here at Messe.
It is.
And you can read my review of the Montage in the May issue of Keyboard Magazine. If it's not May, it's June 2016. I think it's May. I write so many of them that they turn into a blur. But this definitely didn't turn into a blur. This stood out. I nominated for an award, and it is, I've got my 6 at home, which they may have to pry out of my cold dead hands, because it is just an amazing instrument. We've just scratched the surface.
Thank you so much for that.
Bert, thanks again.
All right.